Getting feedback.
We are
We
live.
are live.
Pardon?
I hit the
I
button.
hit the
So,
button. So,
so
so
world, I'm
world,
having a
I'm having a
feedback
feedback
issue
issue
where all I'm
where
doing
all
is
I'm
hearing
doing is
you.
hearing you.
Yeah, and what I'm getting is your voice is coming in and out. So
It's
while I'm
It's
strange.
being
strange.
quiet,
Hmm.
I just tried to send some files, and it's the slowest I've ever seen the internet. So I'm wondering if there's something going on. And with Russia and Ukraine going on, I wonder again if it's not there's not a lot happening where it's overloading the systems, the global systems.
Maybe my
Maybe my
download speed is
download speed is
amazing. I'm
amazing.
testing
I'm
it right
testing it
now,
right now,
but
but
I don't know what
I
the
don't know what the
upload speed is going
upload
to be
speed is
like.
gonna be like.
Oh no,
Your
it's
Oh no,
great
choice.
it's
too.
great too.
Huh?
I don't know.
Um,
I don't know.
I
My
don't know. My
internet's working
internet's
well.
working well.
Maybe you should
Maybe you
sign out
should
and come
sign
back
out
in
and come
real
back
quick.
in real quick.
Um, it feels like everything's okay on my. Well, you tell me.
All right, let's
All
just
right, let's
roll with
just
it.
roll with it.
Okay,
I'll
let's
deal.
go.
I'll deal with
I'll deal
the
with the
double hearing
double
my
hearing
voice.
my voice.
Okay.
So today
So
we're going
today
to
we're
talk
going to talk
about
about
you hear an
you hear
echo
an
too,
echo
huh,
too, huh,
Brad?
Brad?
What about
What about
DJ? Do you
DJ? Do
hear
you
an
hear
echo
an
too?
echo too?
Since you're out
Since
there,
you're out there,
DJ,
DJ,
and you're
and you're
my
my
remote
remote
producer to
producer
turn
to
to,
turn to,
maybe you have
maybe
some
you have
answers.
some answers.
Hold on 1 second. Let me try some. Dum, dum, dum.
Any
Does
Any
this
potential
potential
solutions?
solutions?
does this work?
I hear you better, but I'm still. Oh no, I'm not echoing anymore.
You're not echoing.
No, no, I think that might have
Okay.
been the solution. Blue headphones for the win.
Well, the only thing that I could imagine is you were talking. It came through my speaker, and the mic was picking it up. I have no idea.
Who knows? When it comes to the tech stuff, I have no clue. I have DJ for that.
Okay.
Um, so going live is always a journey. DJ will tell you. Hey, Brad. Thank you, Brad. It's always a journey, right? You never know what you're going to get, and it's a matter of overcoming things live on the spot and just going from there.
Sounds like
So
life.
yeah, it does, right? I mean, everything's completely parallel. Why don't we go where we were going to go with this today? So I want Michael to speak a little bit about this. Aligning teams has been really coming together, and we're working on energetically aligning the team. And Michael, with your experience and all the things that you've been involved in over the course of this life and lives, what I want to hear your perspective on it.
Okay. Actually, a long time ago, a friend of mine channeled some information, which I think is very critical. Um, Everybody in the organization has to be aligned. In other words, the most important thing is that there is a central vision, there is a focal point, that we're all heading in the same direction, we're all focused on achieving the same goal. Now, while you're doing that, whether it's a soccer team, a football team, a business team, whatever it is, each person must know their role. They must be very clear what their role is. They have to understand what the rules are, what the responsibilities are for each person, and then what the relationships are, and building the relationships. So it's not cancel. Um, that each person intuitively knows to reach out to the other person to help and support them. Now, My weakest link, or one of my weakest links, is technology. You know, I'm old school. However, I've run organizations and I've had secretaries, I've had tech people, I've had people that do the specific details, which are critical. However, everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to be real clear what the goal is, what the plan is, what each person's abilities are and shortcomings. And at the same point, we have to be very sensitive to reaching out and supporting everyone so that we have a foundation underneath us that lifts the entire organization. That's where I'm coming from. I did a video just today, and Spirit came through and said, Michael, you've got to be like the eagle. You've got to be like the condor, flying high, watching the overview. What's going on? Look at the overview. Look at the overview. But then with your keen eyesight, you have to be able to look at the minutia and make sure that everything is going. What's that old statement that the war was lost because of a horseshoe that came off the horse that stopped the knight, from going into battle, and it can be as simple as a nail in that horseshoe that can potentially undermine the whole issue. So, yes, we can all be real clear with the big picture. However, if we don't know how each of us interrelates and comes together and dovetails, then it will be working against each other. Also, let's say people have families or they have other issues and there's a crisis or they need help or support. It's important for the team to know that information so that we can step in and support whatever is going on. I'm being told another thing to mention is any organization, any relationship is only as strong as the weakest link. And the weakest link is what's going to be the Achilles heel. So being aware, constantly looking, constantly communicating, and better understanding. People are different. People are unique. We have to honor that uniqueness at the same time, amplify our ability to relate to each other, to support with each other. And one of the things that I'm very sensitive about because of all the different positions I've been in is to make sure that everyone knows what everyone else's position is and what the boundaries are or what part that person plays, because it's very, very easy for someone like myself to come and say, excuse me, I see this, this, and this. And I could be called an arrogant, pompous asshole because, like, Michael, who are you to talk to me when they're not clear that that's part of my role? And I would never do anything to undermine anyone, only to support them. Except with 5 planets in Virgo, I'm a nitpicker's nitpicker, and I can see minute details in what's going on. Again, languaging, the way we interact with people, it's all about unconditional love, support, caring, nurturing, and helping the people to shine. And to, it's, I'm sorry, I'm getting all these images. It's like taking a diamond, even a diamond that's perfectly cut shines brighter and looks better when it's in a proper setting and in the proper lighting. So for me, that's where I'm focused at, and I'm very passionate about it because I really, really would like to. I like to see people and organizations shine, and to reach their full potential.
And I am more loose when it comes to those things. I don't worry about those titles. I don't worry about roles and responsibilities. I don't worry about any of those things because when I look at a group of people and intuitively bring them together, I feel like they will all find their own purpose. They will all be empowered and encouraged to stand into their truest self and define themselves, right? And sometimes what I've learned over the past couple of weeks is people need a little bit of guidance and a little bit of structure, which is not something that I really excel at. So as we've been adding team members and as we've been really completing our team at this point, we've brought in people to play those roles, right? Because it's just not who I am. I'm more of the vision, more of the strategy, more of bringing the pieces together, bringing the right team together, encouraging, inspiring, empowering them to be self-inspired, self empowered, self-inspired, self-encouraged, to be able to have motivated, to be able to live into their truth, to be able to bring their pieces to the table. But I guess sometimes I take for granted people's awareness and where they are at on their journey, and sometimes I overlook the need for structure, right? And I realized over the past couple of weeks that it's one of my, hey Alex, that it's one of my weaknesses, right? Is that I'm not really living in that structure or even great at creating that structure. And that's where we bring in pieces to fill those roles, right? We bring in other people that align soulfully, other people that align with purpose and align with a mission, to come and be a part of a team that have the time, energy, effort, and wherewithal to provide the pieces that are missing. And that's really where we're growing as an organization. And the reason I want to be transparent about this, the reason I want to share this with the world, is because the reality is this is what we're going to be helping other organizations do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to know what to do? Because we're doing it ourselves,
Right.
right? Like we're living this experience. We took. Now, don't get me wrong. None of us are, we're not strangers, but we took 11 people, have brought them together under an organization that maybe they wouldn't have done any other way. And now we're creating something as a collective with collective experience, collective knowledge, collective wisdom, to be able to relate to almost anyone, right? And to be able to apply the knowledge and wisdom that we've accrued through our experiences to help leverage that for other organizations. This great resignation is just a label like everything else is. The reason that there's a great resignation, or it's even spoken about, is because COVID taught people that there's opportunity, and that opportunity is limitless. And truth of the matter is, I'd rather be happy than make all the money in the world. I just would. Money doesn't make me happy. It amplifies whatever status I'm already in. And if I'm not happy, more money is going to create more problems. If I am happy, then it can amplify reciprocity throughout others in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only purpose that money has for me, is the impact, because it's always about impact. And when I look at what we're doing, is we are giving organizations a chance to learn new ways, use old ways in a different way, to help each employee be valued, seen, and heard. And through that, when someone feels valued, they don't want to leave their role. They don't want to leave an organization. But to do that, you have to know you have to know your employees. You have to know the people. You have to people have to understand, somewhere in your organization, somebody has to understand what makes this person, what makes them feel valued. So we're going to be taking them through these processes in different ways, in ways that they haven't done it before, in these immersive experiences. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
I see you taking notes, so I don't take
Okay.
notes. But
Okay. What do you call it? Back in the Stone Age, when when I was moving up into management, the organization sent me to two workshops. I don't know if they still exist. One is the Louis Allen Management Seminars. The other one was Management Grid. And the Louis Allen Management Seminars taught you that people, as they move up in an organization, it's hard for them to let go of hands-on and delegation and communication, that people always want to do what they're trained to do because that's what they're good at. So if you're a mechanic, you want to get your hands on things, where as where in management, you're training and empowering other people to do that. So that's one of the big learning lessons. Management Grid Seminar went ahead and they put small teams together and they gave you something to resolve that everyone had to come into agreement with, but it was impossible for you to come into agreement because what they said to you was so unclear and nebulous that they wanted you to fight and argue with each other to see whether your management style would be aggressive, this is the way it is, or how you would interact with the group. That's what the situation was. And it was phenomenal because both of them really um, were amazing. And there's about five things that I want to talk about. Okay. Number one, when I was down in Auckland, New Zealand, they had two very large sailboats. I don't know, 55-foot sailboats. They were big sailboats, racing sailboats. And they'd break everybody up into two teams. Well, the people didn't know anything about sailing, so I had to learn about sailing. The two boats were absolutely identical, but they were always competing with each other, and the groups had to learn how to work together. So there was a common goal where people had to learn, practice, experience, sit down, what can we do better, etc. Um, the coming together as a team takes is not something that happens instantly. Building trust is not something that happens instantly. So if I was running a team, what I would love to do, and it's kind of hard when people are all over the world, is say, okay, we're going to spend a weekend together, break bread, talk, do things, just learn about each other, or 2 weeks. It takes some time to do it. Just having an hour conversation with someone on the phone, it's very challenging to build a deep relationship and trust and an understanding of the people. Um, there's a story that I heard of a group of medicine people from all over the world, shamans, medicine people. And the way they bonded was they spent a weekend or a week working together, doing ceremony together. And then in a circle, they each one shared their most sacred story from their heritage, and everyone else listened. And then they passed a talking stick. And again, the shamanistic approach of passing the talking stick so no one interrupts and people have a chance to really share what's in their heart. I mean, I could feel my energy is revving up because I get excited about this and passionate about it. And at the same time, it's like my passion. It's like if I was in a group working, I would probably really pull my energy back and create more space for other people. Yes, if people needed motivation, I could do that. But the whole thing is about having your hand on the pulse of the collective and what needs to happen. If something needs to happen fast, rev up the energy, let's go for it. And if not, create the safety for everyone to communicate and participate so everyone feels included. Um, I kind of chuckle about this, but a long time ago, I was in a relationship and Spirit came in and said, if you want to polish two individuals, you don't put a hard one and a soft one together like two stones, gemstones. You have to have two of equal density so they polish each other. So the question is, how can we polish each other? How can we honor each other? How can we bring out the best in each other? How can we say, so and so, you're having a bad day, give me a call, it's fine. We'll put all the work aside, I'll stay with you until you're clear. So that's what's coming up for me, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the talking stick thing, I wouldn't be very good at that, but I'd learn. Because my stories could last the whole allotted amount of time, or until I pass out. Um, it's interesting, right? Everybody has their own way of feeling valued. And the
Absolutely.
only way you can understand how somebody feels valued is by knowing them as a human being,
True.
right? So when you look at these hiring practices and you look at 7 interviews, and then they don't even tell you if it's not you, right? And these practices, they've lost the human component,
Hmm. There,
So
go on.
it needs to shift back to the human, right? It needs, if you want to retain people, if you want to hold on to your organization, if you want your organization to be your people, which is your culture, right? Your culture is your people. Do not pretend that it's anything other than the human beings that work within your organization. If you want them to be inspired, then you have to understand what inspires them.
Absolutely.
Is it money? Is it mission? Is it family? Is it time? Is it cause? Is it, what are the things that make each employee tick? And when you're talking about larger corporations, it seems very difficult. But the real skill in management, no matter what level of management you're in, all the way up to senior executives and CEOs and chair people, is how do you inspire the ones that are working by your side in the hierarchical structure a little bit under you? How do you inspire them to be their best self? And sometimes that means you move out of the way and you
Absolutely.
help them shine,
A,
right?
g- a good manager doesn't want the credit. He wants to empower the people underneath
Mm-hmm.
him or the people he's developing, always giving the compliments, always developing and polishing those people and giving them the opportunity to step up. It's very, very important.
So if there's an enormous disconnect within your hierarchical structure, then it's time to do the middle out approach, right?
I,
Which is impacting the middle of the organization so that it starts rippling effect all ways.
it has to come from the top, though, Michael. I
I
don't
don't think
care
so.
how,
I don't
if
agree.
okay, but if the middle management, no matter how good they are, if upper management is squashing them or controlling them or limiting them or not funding their projects and they're not supporting the other vision, it can be very challenging if a board or senior management does not support them, in my opinion.
I think that there are ways to impact the middle that
Agree?
will radiate and ripple to such an impact, and the production will increase to such an impactful level that the higher ups will take notice. And that's
And
what I believe.
I agree with you. And I've also seen people who did that in the middle or in the management. And I've also seen them getting fired by the top management because the top management culture was different. I definitely, I'm agreeing
And
with you.
and agreeing with you, because but here's the other step to that also. If that is the mentality of upper management, it wouldn't matter what you were going to do. That's not a company you can work with because they're not going to shift.
There are times when it can, when the critical mass could be reached, or that there's such a challenge within the organization or competitiveness that they have to change. If you take a look at Kodak, went under, and there were a lot of big companies that went under because they didn't have the vision, they didn't change. I want to jump in and share something, if I may, please.
Sure.
I went ahead, I was brought in to, I wouldn't call him necessarily a CEO, but the guy owned like 36 corporations. Very, very talented. And he brought me in to intuitively scan the energy of the different people that were applying for CEO positions under him to run his individual companies. And and I never saw the people, never met them, never saw their resume, didn't even know their full names, never saw a picture. And he's expecting me to give him information. Anyway, it wound up working. So there were a number of times when I said, I intuitively picked up, you already passed up the best man for the job, the guy that will stay with you, give you heart and soul for the rest of his life. And the man said, I don't care about that. I went, oh, okay, okay, so we'll go to, the next option. And we did. However, what I feel is missing, both in middle and upper management, is looking and hiring people and even technical people is looking at, does the person fit in to that organization? And I don't care what the resume looks like. I don't care what they say. I don't care how good they interview. Energy will tell you what is going on. Your intuition, reading the energy, tracking the energy will say, this is a match, or somewhere down the line, within one day to a year or 2 years, 5 years, this is going to create a major problem. And looking at that energy alignment. Now, everybody still has free choice. Everybody still has free will. However, for me, energy is everything. For me, looking at the person's energy, looking at the organization's energy, and then seeing if there's a match is the single most important thing for me.
It's we can go back and forth about this all day because we could, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's many different approaches to look at it. We're not going to work with the companies that leadership has no interest in a change, right? Because they're not going to want to work with us. Because the first conversation that we have, it's not going to align with what they want to do. So we might not work with leadership always, but they might want to give it a chance to see how it works before they jump on board, right? Because there's these enormous budgets for coaching, leadership development, personal development for these middle, I don't want to say middle tier because I don't want to middle range employees within an organization hierarchical structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see potential, they want to talk about maybe moving them up, but they want them to do some coaching, right? And those are the people that we want to focus on because those are the future leaders. Those are the ones that can inspire, empower, and innovate structure within the company. Now, if a company doesn't understand why we want to do it, there's no way that we're going to be able to convince them of any other way.
Can I make a prediction?
Sure.
This is an intuitive prediction,
Yeah.
and the intuitive prediction is that 30% of the people that we trained or help
Hmm.
through aligning teams are going to leave that organization and go to another organization.
At least. At least.
So they're going to outgrow
Hmm.
where they've been unless
Hmm.
that the opportunities open up in front of them. It's almost like an icebreaker. If there's an icebreaker moving forward, clearing the path, then they will be able to stay within those organizations. And if not, then they're going to be so inspired, driven, awakened that they're going to seek other options or they're going to start their own businesses.
1,000,000%. But here's the other thing: as we impact the organization, as we show them different ways of being, their hiring practices will shift, and they'll start hiring better and hiring in a more intuitive way that aligns with their purpose, so that who they're hiring is an overall better fit within their organization, has more diversity because I want to explain and teach ways to hire without any identifiers so that you can create true DEI, right, across the board, and then you have this equity feeling, this equal feeling, this
Mm-hmm.
this feeling of everybody's being included, right? Like I think there's a lot of things that are going to shift. I think that if the organizations don't start shifting, then employees, we've already seen it. Employees are leaving in droves because they don't care. They're not
Abs-
valued. So why would they stay?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So the whole reason they're going to want to work with us is to address these issues. Now, if we start working with large numbers of their employees, wherever they rank in the company, and they don't make changes around these shifts, then yeah, people are going to want to still leave. But this is a chance to redevelop your culture, reinvigorate your corporation, re-inspire your whole organization to becoming a living, breathing entity that lives into your mission and purpose with people that align with it, that can innovate and shift on the spot because they are empowered and inspired by themselves. And then you're going to have outproducing and outproduction like you have never seen in your life because they're going to be so empowered and inspired every day to go to work. And their
Yep.
jobs that used to take 9 hours a day are going to start taking 6 hours a day. DJ, people fear everything. It's not only intuition; they fear everything across the board, right? Like, it's people fear everything. They fear the unknown. They fear the known. They feel negative. They fear positive. They fear self sabotage. Like the list can go on. There's so many fears. How do you help an organization with these fears? You work with one person at a time. You help them heal and go through their stuff. And as you do that, it starts rippling effect through the organization. You have to treat each individual as an individual. And then what you're going to notice is the value, the feeling of being valued shifts everything. Because what happens is when you give one person this personal development coaching and you show that they matter as a whole human being to you, the 10, 15 people closest to them that all saw this are also going to feel valued.
Yep.
And then they're going to want to do these things. They're going to volunteer to make shifts so that they can inspire others. And then your organization starts making this enormous shift. So then it's up to management, up to senior leadership to get on board, because it's easy to stomp it in its space and leave it back where it is out of fear.
Well, again, and the big what I've seen, and I've been in situations where I was invited in and made a massive shift in a division of a international corporation. And at the end of that week, 2 weeks I was there, they said, Michael, you're amazing. You're phenomenal. You've helped so many people. However, we can't have you around because the parent corporation will shut our division down. So it was so amazing that within that division, I was able to make a huge impact. However, what they did not want me back because I made too much of an impact. So the question comes again, how do you keep communicating with, assisting, teaching the higher levels, and how do you keep demonstrating to them the value that they're getting and the potential, short range and long range? If you're talking about an American company, you're talking about anywhere from 1 to 3 years, maybe 5 years. My master's degree is in international management. You talk to a Japanese company and they're looking at 100 years out what the impact's going to be. So again, looking at what is the focal, what is the needs, how is it going to impact the bottom line, how is management going to integrate and even see, because what you're talking about, what we're talking about is something way beyond what a lot of the organizations are used to doing. And at the same point, Michael, they're used to taking 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years to implement this. And with the ability of the group, this can happen within weekends, months, which
Yeah.
again is going to shift the culture. And the question is, how do we hold the hand of that culture, support it, help them keep shining the light in front of them so they feel comfortable where they're moving, and give them that support?
So when I look at it, it's going to come down to numbers, right? Like, let's not pretend, right? Like these senior executives, they're in that role because of numbers, right? 95% of the time. If it's a public traded company, they have shareholders to answer to, they have fund
Absolutely.
managers, right? And again, we're not talking about debunking the numbers or making the numbers not relevant. We're just we're talking about how to impact the numbers through impacting their people.
Mhm.
And I think what it's going to take is, you know, I've had this experience that when people start making shifts, it impacts everyone around them, and they become more productive, they become more capable, they become more everything. So if they're really caring about the bottom line, then and the money's already budgeted, because it is just sitting there as dead money on the budget. Most companies just don't know where to go with it. Um, then why not utilize it to then in turn really create impact in your organization? I was reading somewhere that it takes every employee that you lose, it takes 3 to 6 months to replace that employee
Mhm.
for the whole process, and it's usually about 75% of their salary is the cost to replace them. You're losing a fortune by letting the people that are already in your company walk out the door regularly because you don't want to shift your people, your culture.
Correct.
This is a way to truly impact the bottom line in an enormous way. It's a way to truly impact humanity and impact the people in your organization in a huge way. We talked about this last time, or I talked about it on another show. I don't even remember anymore. Like, I'm confusing them all. But how do you know that, Tom in senior manager, you know, he doesn't want to raise, but what he wants is to be valued. His son has a little league baseball team that's been looking for a sponsor. You can go sponsor that team for a couple $1,000 instead of a $15,000 to $20,000 raise, and he feels more valued that day because you impacted something that matters to him on a personal level. Or you send him and his family to sporting events 3 or 4 times a year. Again, it's 1/10 of what it would cost. Or you go out of your way and you get him the skybox or do something above and beyond that is still so much less than that raise. But they feel valued. You made it personal. They feel seen and heard and understood. Those are ways, right? And again, it's just, treating people like people and humans. And we've gotten so far away from that. DJ said that's her show. That was her show that I was on when I said that, apparently. We could
Well,
have just played a clip if I wasn't challenged.
yeah, everything that you're saying is true. One of the things that comes up for me is a lot of times the Peter principle. People raised to keep on getting promoted to the level of their incompetence. So the question is, how do you retrain them or find out where they're best suited for? Again, I want to go back to intuition. I want to go into reading the energy. I want to go back because there was Bob Proctor had something called a goal setting program. And when I was teaching and living in London back in 1995, I was invited into the goal setting group. And these were all senior managers, CEOs, um, top tech people, lawyers, etc. And they said, when I went in there, they said, Michael, keep your mouth shut. I said, that's going to be pretty hard to do. But they said, okay, Michael, keep your mouth shut. Don't let anyone know who you are until the end. So I pretended like I was one of the regular people in the group. And then at the end, when everyone was reading their goals and what their dreams, goals, and visions were, they said, Michael, go do your thing. And I checked the energy of each one of the people involved. I muscle tested them to show them what was going on for them. And believe it or not one person, and even people that had their own companies, corporations, not one person wanted what they identified as their goal. I was able to help them by tuning into their energy. It was sometimes within range, sometimes it was something totally different, but they thought their goal was one thing. So here, people can focus on what they think is their goal, but if energetically, intuitively, that's not their real goal, scanning their energy field will help to identify that and then help them to realign. And with every person I worked with, there was a light bulb moment that said, oh, you're right. That's what I really want. So, again, helping the people to understand and to get in touch with, to connect with what's really valuable and important to them is critical. And also what I'm hearing, Michael, is that after we have 10 clients, satisfied clients, they'll be able to tell the story. We won't have to tell any story,
No.
but those 10 people will. And what I'm also picking up intuitively is those have to be entrepreneurial driven organizations or service organizations. Those are going to be some key groups that are going to be potentially the most open and receptive to this approach.
Well, and keep in mind, right? Like, there's test studies already done. There's many organizations that have already shifted. There's organizations that have put their human beings first and that have really made that impact within their own organization. So this isn't a foreign concept. We're just looking at it on a larger scale. We're looking at it on a larger impact scale, right? We have 100 to 150 coaches that we work with on the other side that are already lined up that can impact thousands of people today, right? Like, I mean, we're aligned and lined up for this in a very large way, and all we're looking to do is create these 3R events, right? Re, re Reinvent, reinvigorate, and retain events for executives to come experience it for themselves. We want them to feel a shift. There's going to be follow through afterwards. There's going to be a safe space for them with all the team members and our team, and then all the facilitators on the outside also, for them to actually experience and feel supported, and when they go back to their workplace, and we'll be there to support the change. We'll be there to impact, to build, to grow with them. Right? We're looking to have them in a space for 4 days, take them through a journey, immersive through food, immersive through experience, some traditional workshops as well. Example is the opening meal, right? The opening meal is a blindfolded meal. Everyone's going to be blindfolded, even the facilitators, even me. Even me, I am going to be blindfolded in the room, not knowing anybody, right? Yes, I'll know the people that are participating, but I won't know them, Not to sit down in a room blindfolded with them, right? And it's going to be an experience. We're all going to be in it together, and we're going to talk about true DEI and how, in a blindfolded setting, all the conscious, unconscious, unconscious, subconscious bias can't be exhibited, because then you really have to rely on your senses and have an open heart,
Yep.
open mind, and be conscious of what you're saying, because you don't know who you're speaking to.
Right.
So we have to communicate at a different level. And
There was,
this is going to be a shift.
yeah, the whole point that you're saying, there was actually an orchestra that was interviewing people, and what they realized was that there was a bias. So they actually, on the next set of interviews, or they had the curtain there, so they couldn't see who it was, what they looked like, whether they were male, female. They just had to play, and they kept going back to this one person as being the best, and it was someone that was already with their orchestra that they weren't even acknowledging or even considering. And this person, who happened to be a woman, was the best of all of them. So again, when you're shifting the way you're perceiving, opening up and looking at a different way of communicating or reading the energy or connecting with people, it opens the doorway for a phenomenal shift. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? Like, it's all about being open, right? If you want your organization to shift and change because it is not going right, and you're not retaining the amount of people you need to retain, and you're losing employees, and you're blaming this great resignation because nobody wants to work and they're making more money on unemployment, none of that's true. They're not staying because they don't feel valued, heard, and seen. They're not staying because there is tons of opportunities that has been proven now many times over, and Gary Vee is a huge reason for this. Him and his, whatever it is, 40 million social media followers globally, that has shown people that they can go to garage sales on the weekends, sell stuff on eBay, and make more money than their day job.
Mhm.
So why would anybody stay at their day job that they're miserable? Nobody wants to be miserable 50% of the time that they're awake, because it invades everything else that they do. So it's time for a shift. If you're one of those organizations and you don't know what to do, then reach out to us. We might not have all the answers, but we're going to take you on a journey to help you find them for yourself.
I'm being shown something, and I'll model it. When you go into a doctor or you go into a complementary therapist, they're always taking your pulse. That's one of the things. And to be able to take the pulse of an organization, to sit down and really pinpoint what's going on, what's working well, and what, your own, any organization is only as strong as their weakest link. You go
Mhm.
ahead and you upgrade that weakest link, you support and empower that weakest link, and all of a sudden the whole organization shifts and there's more money, more profit to do other things.
And sometimes the weakest link is the culture, the
Mhm.
whole collective, because no one feels valued, seen, and heard. But the minute you start valuing, little by little, start valuing people and they see it, it's contagious. It is positive contagious. And people will start shifting immediately once they start feeling valued, seen, and heard. It's
I
not
agree.
about putting an extra garbage can. It's not about, you know, identifiers or labels or, yeah, all those things are there. Everybody knows there's unconscious bias. Everybody knows nobody feels that there's equality across the board. We understand all this, right? I mean, you have Fortune 100 companies or 500 companies that are posting that they just got their first woman board member. So they have 1 out of 12. You're telling me that's equality? You're telling me that's growth? Throw all your board members off and pick the 12 best people for the role in a blind candidate pool. And I promise you the diversity, equity, and inclusion will be there. If you want to show the world how to impact change, then do drastic change. But these companies are scared. They're terrified because of their shareholders. Meanwhile, the shareholders demand change. Meanwhile, but they want the bottom line not to change either. So something's got to give, whether it's the Jeff Bezos mentality, I don't care what my shareholders think, I'm going to build this monster anyway, and lose year over year over year over year over year until one day you're not losing anymore. And then you're prepared for the next 40 years into the future. So when are you willing to pause, reevaluate, and build for that 40 years into the future?
I'm going to jump in with something that the I Ching says. The I Ching says that the test on how well you pick the crew of your big sailboat, your commercial sailboat, in the olden times, the test on how well you picked your crew is not determined when the weather is calm. It's when you're in the middle of the storm. That's when you know if you picked the right people or you didn't. And what would be different if you picked the right people from the beginning? Apple Computer picked the right people as far as management was concerned. They all had a lot of experience. Now, how do you, when you pick the right people that care about the people, pay attention, and I'll go back again to intuition and reading the energy to see what fits, where the doorways are, where the opportunities are, and where the connections are.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna call it. We had tech problems at first. We had all these different things. Yes, Michael does have plenty of knowledge and wisdom.
I've been through
So
I've been through a lot and been
there
around a
you
lot
go.
of companies and corporations, and um, I've kicked over quite a few money lenders' tables and challenged a lot of systems. So um, been there, done that. So really am committed to putting together and being part of um, and seeing this organization grow and make the impact that it can.
Uh, I definitely feel like we're on the right track. So thank you again, Michael, for being here. Next week we might do two of these, and we'll have different people on with it. So thank you guys. Have a great Friday. Is today Friday? Yeah, today's Friday. That means that I have the kids for 2 days straight with no break. Anyway, I need Saturday or Sunday school. So if anybody knows anyone, please let me know. 12 hours a day would be awesome. Um,
2 weeks
and have,
vacation would be even
yeah,
better.
it would. But they would be there with. So vacations turn into more of a chore in lots of ways. But either way, I love my kids and where we're at, and life is moving forward. So Everybody have an amazing and beautiful weekend, and we will chat soon.
Take care. Thank you.